Hey guys, welcome back to the Calibrate Tools and DIY channel. How you guys doing? Come on in and make yourselves comfortable. Um, Hope everybody's doing well. Man, this year has flew by, hasn't it? Right? I mean, it's almost friggin', excuse my language. Thanksgiving's coming up. All those main holidays. Next thing you know, it's gonna be Christmas, and then, bam, 2024 is done. That's how fast time flies, guys. So what have we, okay, on a personal level, what have we done this year, okay, to say when we look in the mirror that, hey, look, I've gotten some really good things accomplished this year, and I can't wait for the next year to come because I'm going to make some more things happen. Can we look back on 2024 and this last 8 months that just flew by and say, hey, did I accomplish the goals that I set out? Did I even have goals? Because believe it or not, if you haven't done those things, you're just existing. You're not really living, okay? And it's not all about having fun and this and that and the other. It's about actually getting things done. And then that ties into the title of this podcast, this live, this whatever you want to call it, podcast, live, whatever. Tonight, is work ethic still around? Is it a thing of the past? Do you have a work ethic? And that has to be tied into something, whether it's working for your family, to feed your family, take care of your family. Sometimes that's all it is. Or do you have other goals? Like, you want to make a certain amount of money. Okay. And what have you put into your goals? Okay. And that's why it's very important to have goals, some kind of goal, something you're working towards. It doesn't have to be, I want to be a billionaire, millionaire. It could just be, hey, I want to take my family on a vacation next year, or I want to, I want to travel, or, I want to be able to purchase that plot of land that I always dreamed about, so that's what it comes down to. Okay. So, I was having a conversation with someone earlier today, and, I had to shake my head because I've heard this a million times. Young people don't want to work. You hire them and they don't want to work. They don't stay there long enough, and they just, it's frustrating to find good people, especially if you're an employer. And I hear this all the time. And I was always stuck in my head. I can't believe that a young person doesn't want to work today, right? But apparently, you hear it so much that it's like something has to something. Is it true or not? You guys tell me. You employers out there, do young people want to work? And it's not just young people, right? It's not just younger folks. You got some older folks that don't necessarily want to work either. And I think the pandemic, which has happened a couple of years ago, has really exacerbated this problem. It's made it worse, right? Because people, they got all these checks and money come from the government taking care of people. So it didn't help the cause of going out there and getting a job or working, because they didn't have to, right? So um, in the long run, these type of attitudes affect the economy in general, right? If you don't have a workforce, uh, a productive workforce, your economy will suffer, and you'll become a consumer class, and what's below that, a welfare class, and nobody, that's like the bottom of the barrel right there. Okay, that's the bottom of the barrel. So yeah, so feel free to chime in on this topic. Do you think work ethic is a thing of the past? Do you think you have a good work ethic, right? How do you gauge that? Because it doesn't mean you have to work yourself to death, right? Because that's what this capitalist system does, right? It kind of conditions us to say, hey, listen, we got to keep up with the Joneses, so I got to work myself to death just to keep up. And that can burn people out. Because if you look across the world, you know, uh, work ethic is defined differently, right? In Europe, they look at America, or they look at this part of the West as, fools. You don't take vacations, uh, and all this and that. And they have a different structure as far as uh, their workforce, right? They're taken care of. But if you look at their systems, their healthcare systems, and other systems that they have in place, it's built to really take care of the populace over there, right? So they don't have to work as hard to take care of themselves, feed their families, or have money just in case something goes wrong with their health. It's different, right? So this system over here, let's face it, was built on, working people to death, literally, right? So, and it's still that way, but it's by choice, right? So they say, unless you get arrested and go to prison, then you don't have a choice, right? Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, if you want to survive in this system over here, you got to have some kind of work ethic. So I was, me, I dove into the weeds, pulled up some articles, and thought I'd get a little more insight onto it. Let's see what it says here. Has the American work ethic gotten worse? All right. It's easy to see that America has lost sight of the virtues that comprise work ethic, the very things that help build this country. Okay. Yeah. Like I said, America was based on working people literally to death to build to build what we have today. There's nothing wrong with work, right? But there is something wrong with working people to death, right? Or feeling that you have to work day and night just to survive, just to pay the rent, just to pay the bills, just to have adequate health care, put gas in your car. And for the vast majority of people, vast majority of Americans, that's what it is. You're on this treadmill of work, 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 work. How do you get off of that? Well, that depends. Sometimes you have to work harder just to get off of that treadmill, right? Just to get off of that treadmill to have some freedom. And I think that's why a lot of people feel trapped, right? They may or may not have a job, right? They may or may not have a 9 to 5, all right? And if they do have a 9 to 5, right, and they want to get off of it, they know that it's either two choices: either you quit and get on, some kind of public assistance, or you start a business or something like that, which requires you to work even harder than you're working right now. So as a result, they don't want to quit because then they don't want to live on the street. You don't want to be homeless, but at the same time, they don't want to work harder than they're working now to get off of that treadmill and possibly build a life of more freedom, right? So it's like a catch-22. The average person is going to stay exactly where they are, right? Even though it's uncomfortable, it's more comfortable, less painful to make that change, right? Either direction. I get the part where you don't want to work, you want to stay home or whatever. And that's what the pandemic did. It allowed a lot of people to stay home and experience the freedom that they wish they had all their life, right? But of course, that's temporary and it didn't last. Now you got to get back to work. But most people are not going to go the extra mile and say start a business or something like that. Most people haven't been investing all their life or have a nest egg, so they can at least have some kind of light at the end of the tunnel to give them some sort of freedom in their later years. So most people are just stuck. And so they have to force themselves to like what they're doing, right? It's just sad in itself, right? You have to force yourself to go to work. You have to force yourself to wake up and get out of bed and go make that whatever amount of money you got to make. That's why it's important, guys, to make good decisions as early as you can. And I say as early as you can because I don't want to say, okay, you should have made it when you were younger, right? Because that's just not life. We all make decisions. But right where you are right now, you can make decisions to avoid living a life of frustration. A life of frustration because you feel trapped. Feeling trapped is like one of the worst things you can feel. At some point, you will become numb and you will just go through the motions until you die. Do you really want to do that? Right? I mean, I get it. Right? I get it. If you like your job, you like what you're doing, then more power to you. I think that's 10 steps above waking up in the morning and not liking what you're doing every day of your life for the next 40 years. You have to kind of like what you're doing, right? And work ethic, right? I mean, I was talking to a friend today, and it was sad to hear again. I always hear this, like young people, right? Especially in certain communities, and I don't want to like call names or anything like that. You can put the pieces in where you want to. They don't have the work ethic that's required to not only advance themselves, but in the long run, advance their own communities, right? Why is that? Certain communities have been affected. Certain communities have a different history in this capitalist system that may cause this, right? If you talk about the African American community, right? I hear a lot of negative things, leveled against young people in the African American community, saying that they don't want to work. You know, I don't know I don't really know what to think about that. I totally don't agree with that. I know there's different factors that can may result in that type of attitude if that's actually happening. So I want to be on the fair side of things, right? First of all, you're looking at a community where the fathers were taken out of the home. Drugs hit that community, not at no fault of their own. Drugs were pumped into that community. Men were incarcerated at a much higher rate, even till today. So the male role model was taken out of the home, okay, and that does so much damage. Once the family unit is fractured, right? Once the family unit's fractured, especially when a positive male role model is taken out of the equation, everything pretty much falls apart. Now you have a single mother that's doing her best to keep the family together, if she's actually doing that, because sometimes she crumbles under the weight of this pressure as well. And when you don't have that, when you don't have positive parental figures, then you have a wayward family, very fractured family unit where the kids really have nobody to look up to. They didn't see dad go to work, or at least have the discipline to get up and go to work every day, because he was being attacked by a larger system, right, to keep him out of the house, to break the family unit. And this was a result of this was a design to happen. Okay, so I am by no means taking out the accountability of a person, the personal responsibility out of this conversation at all. I'm just giving you guys a larger view before you go and point the finger at people and say, why are they like that, right? Why, you have to look at the larger picture. What affected this group of people or this community? And this can go for any community, right? What affected them? What external factors contributed to this unproductive, way of life, right? And then once you look at all the factors that may have contributed to this and the long-lasting effects that rippled throughout time, even up till today, from the 80s all the way to now, then you kind of have a more nuanced, you have a balanced view of things, so you're not as judgmental. But most people are judgmental, and the only reason that I because I'm a researcher at my core, right? I want to know why something happened. What are these circumstances? What are the ingredients that went into this that caused this to happen? And once you do that, you get a better view of things. You get a bird's eye view of things, and and that's also a better way to solve problems as well. Because now okay, this happened. How can we stop this over here? Or if we can't stop that, we can at least defend ourselves better against that external circumstance. And once again, you take the man out of the house, everything else crumbles. A lot of people don't want to look at that. They just want to point the finger and judge, and I've been judgmental at times myself. Well, I'm not going to say I'm not perfect either, but you have to really look at the larger picture. Okay. All right, let's go in the chat right here. U.S. is definitely consumer based. Absolutely. Yes, it is. Industrialization no longer exists. The rules for employers have no balance. Corps are top heavy in a lot of cases and not willing to give their workforce a portion of the wealth. Absolutely. There is a very, very unfair distribution of wealth in capitalist economies. There, Perry Good Life notes. And that's pretty much what it's all about, right? You got the little guys on the bottom, getting the crumbs, propping up the big guys who, when they, quit or resign, they resign with these big $1 million paychecks and stuff like that, so yeah, very top heavy, absolutely. And that can demotivate a workforce, right? When they see this happening, it's like, man, this guy's up, he's not doing anything. I was watching the video from a very famous, at least social media famous person, who was a finance money business person, and they said that even in the circles that they run into millionaires who are not even as smart as them, but for some reason they're millionaires, which could be a very motivating thing as well. I mean, you don't have to be that smart to be a millionaire. You may have to have other factors going on, but it can be very demotivating when you if you become, you start to wake up and you say, man, I'm working all these hours, and these guys on top they're getting these I forget the name of what they call them when they leave. These executives, they leave the company with these fat paychecks. There's a word for that. And you're down there on the bottom working for maybe, I don't know, pennies compared to what they're working for. So that could be very demotivating. And because of the democratization, right? Information, meaning that you can find these things out just by one click on the internet, right? Or some news article that pops up and says, so-and-so got quit or resigned over some scandal, but they still got $1 million paycheck, right? Or something like that. That could be very demotivating to a lot of people. And, so that's one factor, right? And I know I concentrated on the African American community because that's the community that I work in or that I'm around a lot. And I hear this complaint all the time. Young people don't want to work. Young people don't want to work. Well, like I said, why? I totally do not believe a lot of young people don't want to work. I do believe a lot of them don't have a work ethic, but there's a lot of them that are getting thrown into that mix, right? They're getting thrown into the pot of people that don't want to work, and everybody gets labeled the same. That's not true. A lot of them are out there looking for work, but they're not getting hired. Or if they get the job, they confront certain things that are on the job that are totally against their own self-worth or self-esteem, right? They're getting attacked, right? And who wants to be in that environment? Who wants to be in that environment? At any rate, this is why it's important, right, to start businesses in your own communities. I actually think it's an obligation that you start businesses in your own communities, right? I think that if 80% of your community is working for other people, that's failing. You have not built the infrastructure in your own community to hire your own folks. Guys, if we really want to be blunt, right? Let's look around. All the different cultures, this melting pot that's America. All the different communities, they hire within their own communities, right? They're not going out there looking for jobs from other people, right? Even the ones that don't have their papers, quote unquote, their legal papers to be in this country are getting hired by their own people because they're looking after their own people, right? And those communities, they prosper. They're insulated, right? So you talk about, oh yes, it's this everybody just get along with everybody. Well, that's not the way it's worked. It works, and it hasn't been working that way because everybody does not get along with everybody, and because of human nature, it's necessary to have some level of insulation to protect your own communities, someplace where you feel safe. You don't feel at the mercy of the biases of other communities that may or may not like you. And so if you don't have that infrastructure, guess what? You're going to suffer. You're going to be at the mercy of people that don't even want to hire you. Or if you get hired, they treat you like, less than or whatever. So at the end of the day, I think one of the ways to spur or, initiate a better work ethic in your community is to start a business. work with each other, right? Spend money with each other. That's, you know, start to build the infrastructure within your community. Okay? Because we can't change what happened before. We can't change, you know, the breaking up of families since slavery and all that stuff. You can't change that. You know, that stuff's happened already. But what we can do is rebuild and rebuild and rebuild and rebuild and rebuild. You know, you tear it down, you're gonna build it back up. You tear it down, you can build it back up. You tear it down, you're gonna build it back up. I remember the old reggae artist Shabba Ranks. I don't know if you you guys, I don't know if you guys know who Shabba Ranks is, but he had a song that says, if you tear it down, we're gonna build it back up. If you tear it down, we're gonna build it back up. You know, and I think we kind of lost that. And I get why. I get why we may have lost that drive, because look, I mean, if you're familiar with, and I could just speak for the African American community, I'm not going to speak for any other community, because if you speak for another community online today, you may get attacked because you're not really speaking for them unless you say something positive about them, right? So I'll keep it in house, right? If you look at the African American community, right, and you study the history of what they went through in this country, not just in this country, but we're talking about this country right now. Every time that they built prospering towns and cities, they were torn down because of hate and just outright evil, hate and evil. These are prospering communities, right? Which I think was a beautiful thing. But they were literally targeted. I mean, you hear about the main ones like Tulsa, Greenwood, and places like that, but they had them littered all over the country, these prospering African American communities that they had no choice but to be self-sufficient. They had professionals in all areas, lawyers, doctors, accountants, inventors, you know, and that the whole invention, that's a whole nother story of the myriad of inventions that you know, products and services that you enjoy today came out of the African American community. Nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to give them their props. They just want to be, you know, that's a testament to the how would I put this? That's a testament to the outright I don't know, the word's evil. I mean, evil that the Western world has shown us, right? The very things that they enjoy today, the traffic light, the ironing board, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Do your research of what African Americans have contributed to this society in terms of invention, products, all this and that. And of course, there are going to be the people out there that will try to debunk everything I say about that, but it's true. And it just burns a hole in them because they can't accept the fact that this group of people that have been stepped on from day one have risen and risen and risen, and they can't accept the fact that they were responsible for some of the things that they enjoy today. And you know, once again, if you don't have a bird's eye view, if you haven't read, if you haven't done the research to know what I'm talking about, then you're just, you know, that's why it's so important to understand. It's so important to read, right? Or at least get around people that have this kind of knowledge, right? And understand the bigger picture of what happened to the community for someone to go out there and say they don't want to work, they're lazy, they're this, they're that. Okay. Those lazy people, the people you call lazy and unproductive, useless eaters, are the same ones that gave you most of the modern amenities that you enjoy today, that you claimed that you invented. You know, some of these inventors had to get a person from another culture to even to be the face of their business, because otherwise you wouldn't buy from them. All right. I mean, the refrigerator, I mean, it's, I can pull out a list, guys. I can do a whole live and break out a list of all the inventions that came out of the African American community. The community that's so libeled and derided, but it's the backbone of this country. I don't care what anybody says. No other group has contributed to this country in terms of their lives, their sweat, their blood, the wars that they fought in to give you the rights to go elect a president. Okay, whoever you're voting for, that a president that looks down on the same people that gave that fought for him. Think about that. So anyway, all these factors can affect how a person views themselves, as in terms of how they're accepted when they go out there and look for a job. Now I don't want to jump onto something totally different, but it ties in. Do you know that there's a genetic link? Like, experiences of the past actually are encoded in your genes, right? So if you've been traumatized, you can actually pass your trauma onto your offspring, and this can be generational. This is a proven fact that genes, your genetic makeup, is actually a result of your past, your ancestors, right? You're walking around with your ancestors in you. You're actually the culmination. You're the latest version in the flesh of your ancestors. So when you look in the mirror, you're looking at your ancestors, literally, right? You're looking at your ancestors, literally. And you're looking at all the trauma. You're looking at all the trauma that they've been through as well. That's in your genetic code. So you may wonder, okay, why do I feel this way about this and that? Or why am I this way? Well, you're actually your ancestors. The experiences are in the genes, right? And trauma and all that stuff's in the genes. So that affects communities as well. If a community has been traumatized and that trauma has not been healed to some degree, it's just gonna perpetuate, right? That's why some people have children and they wonder why the kids are like that, or like, why is this kid like this and why is this kid like that? Well, everybody gets a mix of a mix of genetic information from people in the past. So not to get off tangent or go off on a tangent right here. All this ties in, and like I said, I'm not trying to make excuses here, but once again, if community has been traumatized, and I'm only trying to be fair, because I hear a lot in my own community that people don't want to work. Well, look what they've been through. What kind of trauma have they been through? What kind of trauma are they going through right now still that make them less motivated to go deal with the system that is not accepting, right? Even till this day, the hoops that they have to jump through. At the end of the day, the sole obligation of that community is to form their own businesses where they hire their own people. Everybody else does that. I've mentioned that in the past. I mentioned that in a few of my lives. And people, you may call me a separationist. I'm not that at all. I care about my folks. I care about my community. Don't you care about your folks? Don't you care about your community? Don't you want to see them prosper? Well, I mean, if you don't, then you're of no use to your community at all. So, yeah, anybody watching this, think about that. Think about all the things I talked about today. Get the larger picture. And if if you're a human being and you care about other human beings, you would consider what I'm saying. And, I'm not saying to take on a headache, but understand. Okay. If you have it in you, if you're motivated to really do something for your community while you're here on earth, because at the end of the day, it's all about service. It's not about how much money you made, you know. It's not about any of that, you know. You'd be surprised that how miserable a lot of rich folks are, and it has nothing to do with how much money you have, right? I think true happiness comes from service, with, you know, serving other folks. That's what I think we're designed for as human beings, is to serve other people in some form or fashion. And you don't have to have a lot of money to serve people. You know what I mean? There's different ways to serve people. Matter of fact, you don't have to have any money to serve people. But it definitely helps to have money to serve people, right? In larger ways, right? So yeah, let's get back to this article here. What's it saying about the American work ethic? Yeah. All right. Adult Americans with full-time jobs work on average 47 hours a week. That's 90 minutes more than they worked a decade earlier. We annually put in more hours on average than workers from most industrial nations, 70 hours more than Japanese workers, 99 more than British laborers, 424 hours more than Germans. Think about that, guys. Germans in the West, Germans are seen as the most, or at least one of the most productive societies. They're held to this high standard. You look at German products like Mercedes-Benz and whatever other products they have. The German work ethic, at least what I'm familiar with it in my head, the brand that they, you know, that I see them as, or whatever I hear about, is that they have a very high work ethic and they're very efficient. But it's saying here that we work 424 more hours than Germans, according to this study right here. It says, in fact, European workers find it funny that we work from home, respond to work emails and phone calls after hours, we eat lunch at their desks, talking about Americans, or skip lunch altogether, and refuse to take paid vacation or sick leave. We rack up this impressive number of hours because we still believe in the virtue of work. Okay, it says a survey, a Pew Research survey, you know, whatever, shows 75% of American workers still believe most people can succeed if they work hard, far more than workers in other countries. Only 57% of British workers and 35% of Russians believe it. Perhaps this is why Americans are reluctant to excuse people from their jobs. All 40 of the leading industrialized nations provide some form of parental leave for new parents, except the US. Once again, guys, that ties back into the inception of this country in the early days, right? It was all about work. It was all about survival, you know. Either you were fighting to survive, you know, when the Europeans came over, they were fighting from day one, or at least, you know, killing the natives, you know, to acquire more land, and that's, you know, so and then they had slavery, right? The importation or subjugation of peoples that were already here into a slave labor class, based on, and that was based on that class was the prime mover to propel the United States, right? To propel the United States into the realm of superpower status. Without working people to death for free. No, I don't say, I'm sorry, not without, but because it would work people to death for free for 250 to 400 years. Now you amassed such economic power in the world to be labeled as a superpower. Now, of course, that's not, America is not necessarily on that status now, but it's definitely still up there as far as the economic power. Okay, and that's guess what, guys? That conditioned the average American to believe that work, work is the answer. Work is the answer. But at the end of the day, it's not all about work. You can actually work too much. But those at the higher levels of society, higher levels of that economic ladder, yeah, you'll go on social media and say, oh yeah, some CEOs working just as hard as they did when they were 20 when they founded the company. And no, the average person that reached that level is not working as hard. It's still the lower tier that's working like that. Okay, and they'll, that class, that lower class, that labor class, you're probably going to work till you die. To be honest with you, right? Okay, because you're on that hamster wheel, that system that was set up, right? That feeds this system that we live in today. Okay, we're all part of this. If you live in the United States of America, you are part of that system, whether you're homeless or not, or you're in the middle, working, or you're on top. It's all part of the system. You still depend on this system. So you have to ask yourself, do I want to work till I die? Even if I like what I'm doing, do I really want to work? Especially if you're working a labor-intensive job. I talk a lot about being in the trades because I think it's one of the most honorable ways to get from that lower class and be upwardly mobile and get up out of that system. Build something for yourself, something nice, something that where you don't have to work. You can retire with a decent amount, with a decent life. But you don't want to be breaking your back, even as a tradesman, for the rest of your life. Matter of fact, your body won't allow you to do that, right? So I push the trades because I really believe in it. I think you have to have that. You have to have that class of people that are tradespeople to build the infrastructure for your cities, your towns, your nations. But there comes a time where you work so many years in that trade, is what I'm saying. You work so many, you get the most out of it you can, right? You're wise with your finances. You're wise with the money you make. So you don't have to break your back climbing on roofs or doing plumbing or doing electrical work, whatever requires so much stress on the body after a while. That's not what this channel is about. It's about, this is an opportunity. You have a window of opportunity to take advantage of a trade skill, okay? But within that time, you must also be thinking about, okay, am I putting my money in places where it can grow so I won't have to work myself to death? Am I educating myself on ways to make my money work for me while I'm making this money, right? You know what I mean? So, yeah. Otherwise, you're looking at a lifetime. You're looking at a lifetime of misery, right? You have the power to design your life. And I think a lot of people don't realize that you have the power to design your life, no matter where you are. It's all about the choices you make. And I know it seems hard. And I talked about some pretty, dark subject matter, but these are real things that, these are real things that affect people and affect communities. Okay. And so you shouldn't feel like you're forced to work, right? When you talk about work ethic, right? I think a good work ethic comes from feeling like it's not work. Whatever that thing is that you're going out there doing, having a vision past that this is a means to an end. But while I'm doing this, I'm going to learn as much as I can about it, and it's going to propel me to the next level. If you look at it like that, then it's actually part of your journey to higher levels. It's just one more level. And but that's on an accountability. That's the accountability aspect of it, right? Forget all the external factors I talked about, right? That affect communities and their opportunities. It's easy to say, oh yeah, everybody has an opportunity. Everybody can make it in this life. Yeah, everybody doesn't have the same barriers to overcome. Okay. But we can equip our kids, younger folks in our communities, with the right mental, the right mental equipment to be able to, deal with whatever they encounter out there. All right. So they can build. The whole point of building is not to build for something else or someone else, but to build for yourself, for your own communities. Right. And, I think that the younger generations can become very resentful that the older generations didn't have something for them to step into. That we're pushing them out there to say, yeah, go get a job from so-and-so over there. Oh, you got a college degree? Go get that good job. Yeah. Not knowing what they got to do, what they have to go through. We haven't insulated our own communities enough to give them a safe space for when they get out there, they can go to someone that they know they don't have to deal with any racism, prejudice. Their own people. They can go to them and get a job. But that's it seems like that's an uphill task because what's happened. But there's always little things we can do. Right? There's always little things we can do. Instead of just thinking that a good job is out there waiting for us. That's not the answer, folks. That's not the answer at all. I would prefer the struggle of not having a good job if I'm building for my own community. I prefer that struggle, right? Because I know I'm going to make some headway. So when the next person steps in, I got something for them to step into, right? Let me see. All right. There are people on the jobs that intend. So true. Claudette says, so true. Absolutely. Very good life. I agree 100%. Reno. Hey, Reno. How you doing? There are people on the jobs that intentionally frustrate a new person based on existing cliques in the workplace. If you are a supervisor or manager, then it is important to look out for these cliques. Thing about that is that sometimes the manager and supervisor themselves are part of the cliques. Matter of fact, they could be leading the clique, right? But yeah, that's important to look at those things if you're an employer, different people. Make the workplace more welcoming and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, guys, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm tired of force or thinking people should be a certain way. That's not my job. My job is to make my own way. Make a way for my children, make a way for my community. My job is to build for them, not be up under some supervisor wishing that they would treat me better. No. I get it. It's good to get on the job and you learn from that job, but learn to take what you can and build. I mean, build for your own community, right? At the end of the day, that's what it's about. I mean, how can your community respect you if you're only working for other folks and you're not building for them? At the end of the day, that's why I talk about the younger generation being probably subconsciously resentful of their parents, even with what they've been through. I get it. You still got to build. You still got to build. They tear it down, you build it back up. Tear it down, build it back up. I think today, though, we have more freedom, more opportunity to build, right? But unfortunately, social media is full of foolishness, and nobody's really, it's so many distractions. Anyway, guys, I think you got my point, okay? There's a lot more to a person's work ethic than you think. A community's work ethic. There's a lot more to it than you think. Look at the bigger picture, but that's the only way that we're going to get to where we need to be. Having some sort of work ethic, some sort of something that we're loyal to, right? we there's a lot of things that we're not loyal to in life, but we got to be loyal to something, man. That to make this life mean something. You know what I mean? So anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys coming on, hearing me out. Perry Life knows Reno, Claudette. Appreciate you. Anybody in the replay? Hey guys, don't forget to go to calibrate.com. Okay, check out calibrate.com. And we got some great things over there for you. Join the email list. I got some great articles coming out every week, at least every month, right? I try to stay on top of things. Got to get my hands full with some really good information that you won't get here on YouTube. I'm gonna be running contests, raffles, all that good stuff. Give you guys some value. Give you some incentive to stick with me. If you're not already. And yeah, check it out. Join the list. Join the email list at join.calibrate.com. It's in the comments. It's also on the site if you scroll to the bottom. Check out the links below. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Take care.